So, welcome back to the Prescription to Travel MD podcast. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Nicole Sparks. She is an OB-GYN, mom of three, soon to be four, lifestyle content creator, passionate traveler who somehow manages to make it all look effortless. And so, I wanted to have Nicole on the show because pregnancy brings up so many questions. So, whether you're pregnant yourself or you're supporting a partner who is, can I still travel? Where's a safe place to go? Is it safe for me to still travel this far along? What should I look out for? All these things. So now Nicole isn't here to give medical advice, okay? And as always, you should check with your own doctor. But as a mom who is currently pregnant, she's an OB physician. She clearly knows a thing or two about the subject. And I'm sure I'm as excited as you are to gain some insight into all of that. So we'll talk about some of her experiences traveling while pregnant, navigating travel with little ones, how she's built a life full of adventure and creativity and intention. And I'm really hoping this conversation just sparks ideas and gives you some food for thought to discuss with your own healthcare team and just allow you to continue to explore the world no matter where you are in your maternal journey. So without further ado, let's dive in. So thanks for being here on the show, Nicole.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so thank you for that wonderful introduction, Courtney. Like she said, my name is Nicole Sparks. I'm an OB-GYN. I'm a mom of three, a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and almost 3-year-old, and currently pregnant, having my baby in May. So life is pretty crazy right now, but I just know that every time I had another kid, people would tell me, oh, you're not going to travel as much. You're going to stop traveling. And, that just really wasn't the case. So I'm really excited to share about our travels, my love for travel, how I incorporate my kids and have inspired their love for travel. So I'm just really excited to talk about all of that today.
Awesome. So you built a very strong presence on social media, showing us how you're balancing motherhood and exercising regularly. I saw you last week, 8 months along, running, getting ready to run full 5Ks. Like, how do you do it all?
So I tell people that I don't do it all. I have a lot of help. My husband's a great support system. We got married the week before medical school, so he's kind of been there for me throughout the entire journey. And even though he's not going through it himself, I kind of feel like some days he's actually going through it. And, as far as my blog, I really started at my first year of residency just because we were trying for years to get pregnant. And then, God's really funny. And then, of course, I found out I'm pregnant my first year of residency. And I was like, this timing literally couldn't be worse. But it actually ended up being really great because I was able to blog and show people that, oh, you can have kids in training, even in a strenuous residency like OB-GYN. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but if it happens to happen, you can do it with the right support system. My mom is very supportive. My husband's very supportive. And so I never feel like I have to do it all. I really do have help, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah. And I think that's so important to mention too, because I remember as, a pre-med student, like going to, I think there was like a student doctor forum, and like one of the common questions I'd be like answering, like, how do I have a family during like medical school? Can I be a doctor and still have kids? And, all these things that come up for you. So I think people who are listening who are in that stage of their, training may be encouraged and inspired by your story as well. Just being able to do the day-to-day, aside from being able to travel and live your, luxurious travel life.
Right.
Very cool. And so you're currently doing locums, is that correct?
Yes, I'm technically a W-2, but I do shift work. So I work 6 days a month. I used to be in private practice for years, run between 2 hospitals. And honestly, it just kind of felt like residency all over again. And I do miss the connection with my patients, just being able to see the same patients, month after month and delivering them. But at this stage in my life, I just tell people I'm in mommy mode. My kids are small. I'm having another kid. And so time at home to me was more precious, and I didn't want to have to leave my job. A lot of female physicians do leave their jobs just because of children. So I didn't really want to do that. So I work 6 days a month, 24-hour shifts. And the shifts can be brutal, but I tell people it balances out because I'm off most of the month. So most of the time, I'm home, I'm here with my kids, and I still get to do what I love and what I train for.
And part of what you love is travel. So you've been traveling a lot. What does travel look a little different for you now than it did pre-kids?
Travel definitely looks different. I mean, pre-kids, we could just up and go, and that's what we did. But I will say, again, with a good support system, you can still travel the way you did. Now, I understand everybody's situation is different because I tell people to travel, you need a couple things. You need good health, you need money, you need a good support system. And, we are blessed to have all three. So my mother will come, my parents will come anytime we're traveling somewhere, my parents will come. So even if we don't take the kids, they'll come so that Tim and I can travel together. I try to do every year like a girls trip, a couples trip, a kids trip, so I like traveling with my kids, but I also like not traveling with them. So I'm really happy that my mom almost always comes whenever we need her. When I stopped breastfeeding at 6 months with Timmy, my mom came so we can go to Greece. When I stopped nursing at 8 months with Savannah, she came so we can go to Bali. So even after I had kids, our travel never really stopped because we had someone that we could trust. You got to really trust somebody to be able to leave them with your kids for 2 weeks. But luckily, we had someone that we could trust or we could up and go. And so I think that's a big part of that. And if you don't have the support system, I totally understand not wanting to leave your children and up and leave the country.
Right. Yeah. And I feel the same way. My mom and my sister are here in town, and so they help a lot with the kids whenever we need to go. And so me and my husband took a trip to the Maldives a few months ago, and that was like the longest time I'd ever left my kids.
Right. Exactly.
Like we've been to, we'd go places for like, a week at a time, but I'm like, oh, we're gone for like, 10, 11 days. And like, what do I do? But my mom's like, relax, it's fine. It's just like when you go any other time. So we left. They were fine. The kids lived, had a great time. We had a good time. Everybody wins, right? And so you've been doing some traveling during this pregnancy as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So how far along do you usually travel to?
So for me personally, I will just travel in the second trimester. We recommend you can travel whenever you want. Most airlines will let you travel up till 36 weeks, but I tell people try to keep it in the second trimester just because we feel that there's more emergencies in the first or the third trimester. So to be on the safe side, I usually never travel past 28 weeks. I kind of was on the very cusp of that. I went to Curacao at 28 weeks in March, but usually that's the farthest I'll travel. And there's a couple of things for that. Number one, comfort. I was very uncomfortable on the plane. I tell people try to choose an aisle seat, which was great for me, which I did. So you can kind of stretch a little bit. And just by third trimester, you just not wanting to sit in the same place for long. As far as concerns about air travel, I tell people that air travel is honestly generally very safe. People worry about like cosmic radiation. And unless you're an actual flight attendant or a pilot, it's going to be negligible. So I tell people, unless you're a frequent flyer and you're flying twice a week, you don't really need to worry about that. And if you do, talk to your doctor about, how you can kind of maneuver that. But if you're just an occasional flyer, you don't need to worry about that. I tell people the biggest thing that I worry about for my pregnant patients is turbulence, making sure you wear your seatbelt if something were to fall on you. Turbulence is kind of my biggest thing. As far as blood clots, of course, that's a concern too. But I tell people if you wear compression stockings, if you hydrate, if you get up every, hour or two, you'll honestly be fine as far as that goes as well.
Yep, and I know that's one thing that commonly comes up, especially the blood clots, because everyone's like, "Well, can I travel? Am I gonna increase my risk of getting a blood clot?" Because we know that pregnancy is a time in your life where you are more susceptible to getting a blood clot. But most people are gonna be just fine, and like you said, if you're wearing your compression stockings, you're getting up and you're walking the aisles, you're hydrating, you're gonna be okay. So, yes.
Right. And I tell people hydrate with water, not soda, only because if you're drinking a carbonated beverage before you get on the plane, it makes it worse as you go up in the air. And so you're just going to be even more uncomfortable. So I tell people try to stay away from carbonated beverages and drink water before you're going on a plane,
Okay, so no carbonation, drink plenty of water.
unless you just want to be gassy on the plane.
Yeah, and who wants that?
Yeah. We know that it worsens it.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, no, I think that's good advice for anyone who's traveling. Just in general, you want to make sure that you're hydrating with water and not
Right.
drinking all the carbonated beverages, or for the non-pregnant people, lots of alcohol, which can make for a very adventurous trip to wherever you're getting to. And so I know another question that commonly comes up is, where can I travel to? Like, are there certain destinations that you say, you should stay away from this place, or guess this is a good place to go if you're on your baby moon?
I mean, of course, I would make sure that I read any travel advisories. So obviously, if it's not safe for the non-pregnant person, it's not safe for you either. I try to tell people to keep it less than 4 hours. If you have to some people might have a family emergency, they might have a funeral they have to go to. If you have to travel, I think that you can, as long as you take the proper precautions that we talked about before. But honestly, I tell people no more than 4 to 6 hours just to be on the safe side. And for all the reasons, I mentioned above, just because of discomfort, just because of the risk of blood clots increase. Any train, plane, or car ride greater than 4 hours is going to increase your risk of blood clots. So I try to tell people to keep it close. But if you have to travel, if it's an emergency, just make sure you're taking the proper precautions. I also tell people make sure that they have a good hospital there. You're taking your records. If you're going somewhere where it's going to be remote and you're not going to have access to prenatal care or an emergency ultrasound or a hospital if you needed it, I personally would not go.
Where I live in Las Vegas and I work like close to the strip, so we get a lot of people who are traveling here like during all their different stages of pregnancy. And it's a freestanding emergency room that particular location. And we get people coming in all the time and early pregnancy, like that's great. But you show up in your like third trimester and I'm like, you're coming here?
Right. And you'll be surprised how often it happens. You never know. So
Yeah.
that's why I try to tell people to be on the safe side and why I myself won't travel, even right now when I'm a couple weeks from delivering, you won't catch me on a plane just because anything can happen.
And I know even, like, a couple of times people were asking for recommendations of places to go because they don't wanna leave, go somewhere outside of the country, and they're looking to stay within the US, and I was like, "Oh, well, Hawaii seems like a good place," and then, there were a lot of people who said, "No, don't go to Hawaii." And so I don't know if it's just because of the concern for not having enough medical care there or being off of mainland US. I don't know. Have you heard that before, or what are your thoughts on that?
I have not heard that. I don't the flight alone, like, for me, I'm on the opposite coast, so it would take almost 10 hours for me to get to Hawaii, so that would probably be a lot lower on my list just because of the flight time alone. If you're on the West Coast, of course, that'll cut that time in half, but I think it depends on where you are. Like, if you're not on the mainland, I would imagine that it would be harder to have access to care. So, if you're really trying to stay in the US, I would just stay in the continental US and literally see how far the hospital is from you, and just make sure that if you had any emergency that you have somewhere that you can go.
Do you have any favorite locations that are mainland that you'd recommend?
I don't because I don't really travel in the US, which I know I should. I feel like the US honestly has some amazing places. I've heard great things about, like Arizona, Maine. But if I'm being completely honest, if I'm not home, I'm leaving the country. So I had not explored the US as much as I probably should, but that is on my list to explore the US a little bit more. So I don't really have a ton of recommendations because I'm usually out of the country.
Makes sense. Where are you from?
Originally I'm from New York, but I moved to Florida when I was 10. So even though I don't always love to claim Florida, I claim Florida.
Yeah. Well, I think growing up in place either New York or Florida, you probably have access to a lot of, like, international, airports,
Right.
nonstop locations, so it would make sense that you would be venturing outside of the country. What are some of your favorite destinations outside of the country?
Oh goodness, there's so many. Switzerland's probably one of our top favorites. I do wish it was a little bit more diverse, but as far as just the scenery, I mean, it seems like it's out of a postcard. We've gone twice and we've loved it each time, and the air just feels fresh, and the water, you can drink it right from the streams. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. We love Seychelles. My husband and I took a month-long trip to a bunch of countries in Africa last year, which was really important. We knew we wanted to get pregnant, so I was like, "Let's do this trip. It's now or never." My parents agreed to watch the kids for 6 weeks. I never thought I would leave my kids for that long, but they had a great time. They didn't even wanna come back with us. So we, explored Kenya and Egypt and Seychelles and Dubai and Tanzania, and it was just a really, really great experience for us, and it's hard for me to choose one. Everything's just so different, but it was really nice just being able to explore all of that, and that was a trip that I think was more appropriate for just us 2 and not bringing the kids because it was a lot of traveling.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that your work lifestyle allows for you to be able to take that much time off and really just take some time for yourself because you need that, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And honestly, by the time I take a trip that long, I'm kind of ready to go back to work. I know it sounds weird, but by the time I came back, I was like, "Oh, I kind of like miss operating and I miss seeing patients." So I feel like it really gives a good balance where we're not getting burnt out.
And I think that's the goal. And so part of the reason for me starting this podcast was to encourage doctors and other healthcare professionals and really just anyone who would listen to take your time off, take time for yourself, and take time to reset and to recharge. And so, yeah, sometimes you go away for like a couple of days and you come back and you're like, I have to go back to work. Like, it's Monday already, you know? So
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that you were able to take that amount of time for yourself and just really feel that like recharge and reset and feel ready to come back and take care of people, you know? Yeah. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
It is. It really is.
So are there any destinations that you've been to while not being pregnant and not having kids that you would say definitely don't venture here if you're pregnant just for infrastructure reasons or just distance reasons aside from like traveling all the way to Africa?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Bali was like a 24-hour flight for us. It was almost a 16-hour flight to Tokyo, then another 8 hours. So I would say anything that long, I personally just could not do it. Like even now doing this I'm extremely uncomfortable. I can't even imagine sitting on a plane that long. So I would just say that anything that's really far, just don't even torture yourself. Just go when you're not pregnant so you can just, truly enjoy it. You can eat all the things, because in Bali, you're not supposed to try street food, but I tried some street food. I tried, I was a little bit adventurous. So those are things I would not have been able to do if I'm pregnant. And also, we know that, bugs carry a lot of diseases. And in Bali, if you're not sleeping under a net, you're going to get bit by mosquitoes. So I feel like my anxiety would just be too high to travel to Bali pregnant because there's so much can go wrong. So I think some places you just really need to go not pregnant so you can truly enjoy it and not have to worry about you and the baby. You
Right.
can just worry about you.
Right. And you went on a cruise earlier in the year or maybe it was last year? I don't know if you were pregnant.
I did. I went on a cruise. I was I was probably 14 or 15 weeks on the cruise. And so the number one thing I wanna tell people is that cruises are very strict. So if you are over 24 weeks, they will not let you on. If you cannot prove that, I've had my friends try. One of them even tried to call me when she was trying to board the boat, and they were like, "We don't care, like, you have to be," because she was gonna turn 24 weeks, I think, while she was there. So just make sure that you look at their requirements. They will not let you on. And number 2, just beware. I was really worried about nausea because I get really nauseous. It was actually fine for the most part, but if you're someone that's prone to a lot of nausea, I would hold off on the cruises, or I would just make sure that I stack up on my antiemetics before I get on the boat. But I think those are probably the biggest things. So just make sure that you're traveling at a time where you're comfortable. If you're first trimester, I don't know if I would get on a cruise because that's when a lot of people are nauseous, and then the boat's moving and that'll just compound it. So just be mindful of when in your pregnancy that you're traveling. But I think second trimester is a good time to travel. And I think I went on my cruise when I was right at 14 weeks.
Do you have any tips or tricks that can help women who are pregnant, prepare, like, travel insurance or, dealing with medical issues that come up unexpectedly when they're not in the country?
So I would make sure there's not a specific one that I use. I mean, I just always make sure I have travel insurance, but make sure you're bringing your records, like physical records, so that people can see because they don't always take your word for it. Just so they know your due date, if you have any complications and things like that. But just make sure you have insurance at all. You just never know. 9 times out of 10, nothing's going to happen. But you just don't want to be that one time where you're stranded. You end up having vaginal bleeding, your water breaks, and you just don't have any insurance because those bills can really, really add up. So I would just say, just make sure I don't have any recommendations for particular type of insurance. Maybe you do, but just make sure that you have some type of insurance and look at what it covers and see if it covers, things that could possibly happen to you while you're on your trip.
And so I always ask people, because I'm really big into using credit card points for travel. Do you use points when you're traveling?
I do use points, probably not as effectively as other people, only because I don't like the idea of getting more and more cards. And most people that, are really effective at this have like a ton of cards, and I just can't do it. But I do use points mostly with Delta because I'm in Atlanta, right? It's a Delta hub. So that's where I get most of my points. So I probably don't use them as much as I should or get as many as the benefits as some other people do by, activating new credit cards and taking, advantage of their 100,000 new bonus points, which is kind of the way you're supposed to do it. So I will say I don't do that. So I probably pay a little bit too much for my trips, but I do use my points when I can. Sometimes, I found a great deal to Greece when I took the kids to Greece last summer. And by using a certain website, I saw that we can get there through Air France for 20,000 points, Well, I had 100,000 points that I could use, so I was able to get my entire family to Greece based off points, which was amazing. I had to pay to get back, but I was able to at least get them there. So I would say not even just points, but just knowing just to look for deals is really great. But I was so shocked that I could do that. I was like, all right, we're going to Greece. That's what we're doing. So
We're gonna get you to some more places on points after this baby.
oh, good, good. Please. Yes. Teach me the ways because I'm sure I'm overpaying for a lot of these trips.
I think the important thing is that you're going. Like, doesn't matter how you get there.
Right.
It's great when you can use points, and use other opportunities to offset your costs, but the biggest thing is that you're going. What card is in your wallet? I have to ask.
So of course, Amex I mean, I feel like everybody has to have that as a standard. And then I have the Delta Reserves. Those are probably my 2 main cards. Actually, those might be my 2 only. Those are the 2 that I use. So I'm trying to think, and I feel like those are the 2 that I use. I know there's some other good ones. I have Chase too. I have Chase too. So those are the 3 cards that I use, but I'm mostly using my Amex or my Delta card.
And are you taking advantage of the lounges when you go, or
Absolutely. You won't catch me outside of a lounge.
well, I just know even with my kids, like, a lot of times, like, we get to the airport and I'm like, we're just barely making it or, we have really tight connections, and so I find I don't use it as much when I'm traveling with the kids, whereas if I'm going by myself or with my husband, like, or, it's a girls' trip, we're gonna stop and, like, make time to be able to use the lounge, so
If it was just me and the kids, probably, but my husband is I'm late everywhere. My husband's the exact opposite. So we're gonna get there pretty early. And then, if we have like long layovers, the lounges are great. The kids just love them. They're like, what? We have access to all these chips. It's free. And I'm like, well, it's not free, but it's free for you. Go ahead. So they love being in the lounges. And I just love exposing them to that. I think it's so wonderful.
I agree. Yeah, when I was growing up, we were, most of our trips were driving distance. We didn't take a lot of flights, and we definitely didn't fly outside the country. And even me 5 years ago was like loungewear. Like
Right.
I'm in gym pop, so
Exactly. Exactly.
I guess my last question is like, what advice would you give to women who, especially moms or moms to be, who dream of traveling more and feel like it's not possible in this season of life?
So I would say there may be seasons of life where it probably isn't possible because, like you said, 5 years ago, I wasn't doing this. But I do feel that, if you put the proper things in place and trusting someone close to watch your kids, whether it's seeing if you can have a side hustle to make a little bit of extra money, because of course people are like, well, you have money. Well, that's easy. Well, I'm like, yeah, but I had to work to get there, right? I didn't always have money, but I looked at how can I make some extra money? Because even though, I'm a physician, the doctor money don't always be doctoring, right? And, we have really high loans and mortgage and daycare. And so I really had to leverage other ways that I could make money so that I could travel the way that I wanted. And so I will say that it's possible. It might be harder for some people, single mothers. I know it may be harder, but I'm telling you, I follow so many travel families. And whether you're single or you're married or whatever stage of life you're in, it is possible because I see other people do it. You just have to put the proper things in place. So I don't want anybody to feel like travel is impossible for them because so many people feel like it is. And it's not. And you don't have to be going to Dubai or Kenya. You can start small and, work your way up. And sometimes some of the best places are the ones that are closest to us. Sometimes we don't even take advantage of the places that are closest to us. So start there. And even for people that are afraid to travel with their kids, because I get it. And if I were to tell people the worst time to travel with their kids was when they're 2, because when my kid was 2, he was absolutely obnoxious on these trips. But honestly, he's been to 10 countries. Like, it's a phase. I know when we take our next trip, he's gonna be better since he's almost 3. So I would say don't let the fear of that stop you either. People look, they look, it's okay. I think the important thing is that you're exposing your kids to all of these new things, and I don't think people understand how important it is to do that.
I really appreciate you coming on here to tell people exactly that because I think you've been such an inspiration. Like I follow you on Instagram, so I see all of the videos, and I see you with the kids, and it's like, man, you managed to get the kids all the way over to Europe. They've got matching outfits. They've got everything coordinated, and everybody looks like they're having a good time. I think you don't think about all the behind the scenes things that happen
Right.
that need to happen before you can actually make that trip happen. So kudos to you for doing it, but also showing the rest of us that anything is possible and that it doesn't have to stop when you have kids or while you're pregnant or any that you can keep doing these things. You can keep traveling, you can keep exercising, you can keep working, whether you're working at home or you're doing locums. No matter what the case is, it's possible.
It's absolutely possible. Absolutely.
And I think you're proof that you don't have to wait for the perfect time.
There is no perfect time. There's no perfect time. And I think that's okay. Like, even at my season of life right now, obviously I'm not traveling right now and I'm a little bit sad about it because usually I'd have a big trip planned for the summer. But I'm like, you know what? This is my season of life to stay home. In the fall, we're back at it. And next summer, we're going to be doing a month-long voyage somewhere. I don't know where, but it's going to be amazing, and my child that I have now will be over 1. And I think that's a better time to travel than, going anywhere with her now this summer. So I think you just have to realize that there are ebbs and flows in life. And though I miss traveling, I traveled a lot last year intentionally knowing that we wanted another baby. And, we visited 20 countries last year and it was amazing. I left the country every single month. And now it's my time to sit down and I know that I'll be back there again. And I'm okay with that.
I love that you were able to take the time to talk with us today because I can't imagine how uncomfortable it is when you're, having to sit for prolonged periods of time when you're this far along. So everybody's big thank you to Nicole for actually being here to chat with us today. And if they want to learn more about you or they want to follow you, where can they find you?
So my name is Nicole Alicia MD on all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm gonna try to upload. I filmed so many YouTube videos from our travels, starting from 2023 when we did Paris and Switzerland and Italy, and I've just never uploaded them. But I'm gonna do better and try to upload them just so people can see like how it is. And I show the bad too, because even though I show the highlights on Instagram about, oh, everybody's great and we have our matching outfits and everybody's smiling. Trust me, there are some times where there are tantrums and there's a whole lot makes you not want to travel with your kids. But to tell people it's all not good, but you have to take the good and the bad. And honestly, it's overall very good and why I will continue to do so.
I love that you shared that with everyone because yeah, there is definitely the Instagram versus reality that people don't see. And so you can still go, you can still enjoy the reality that is not always going to be picture perfect,
Yeah.
but it still can make for a really good and a really memorable trip. So thank you again. Be sure that you're following Nicole on Instagram and on TikTok for more of her travel and lifestyle inspiration. And if this episode resonated with you, make sure that you share with a friend, pass it along, leave a review. Don't forget to subscribe. There's so much more to come on Prescription to Travel MD. And I'm just so glad to have you along for the ride. So thank you again, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.